It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 553. Tonight I'm joined by Ace.
Hello, I'm still first. This is weird.
Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Kodra.
It's the AAA podcast.
And Tam.
Hello.
So we're doing things a little bit differently than normal because Thalen unexpectedly couldn't be here tonight, and as a result we don't want to record the second half of our Games of the Year show, so we're having an intermission week with a bunch of topics that we were wanting to talk about anyway. Star Citizen Engineering, this one bumped a couple times. What is going on in Star Citizen?
So I think the last time I talked about Star Citizen on the show, I was commenting that I was quite surprised that they had almost delivered on everything they said they were going to deliver in a given year. They did. Engineering was the last thing for them to put into the game before the end of the year, and it came in the last patch of the year, and it actually worked. And so I've been playing with basically the third significant ship role. One of the things that Star Citizen sort of struggled with is having meaningful roles for people on the ship that aren't pilot or gunner, and engineer is now on a large enough ship now a perfectly reasonable thing. Part of this is that like ships just accrue wear and tear over time, so if you're out doing stuff, they'll slowly degrade as you make jumps or travel or take hard landings or whatnot, and you can repair those. You can repair like spot repair things. You can also have components break on you and replace them. All the way from there's like fuse relays, and then also like the actual major components like your power plant or your jump drive or shield generator, which means that almost all of the ships have been updated to have accessible components so that you can, pop open a maintenance hatch and pull out the component that is broken and put a new component in. And you might need special tools to do this if you have a significantly big ship, because you can't just lift the warp drive out of the Enterprise. You need like special tools to do that if you want to put a new thing in. It's also come with the engineering console, which is still kind of a work in progress, but it basically lets the engineer redirect power around the ship. And then things like life support and fire. So you can have ships catch on fire, and you probably want to put that fire out because it's really bad to have a fire in your spaceship. Rooms have life support in them, and so you can do things like vent a room to space, and that's a really quick way to put out fires as long as everybody's got a spacesuit. So it's been interesting. It's not super high impact yet, and I think that's probably fine. There's a lot of mechanics that I'm getting used to that just didn't exist before. Heat management matters now, and it's become a new dimension on a bunch of different weapon types. Most of the most powerful guns in the game now you've got to deal with heat. Like they'll overheat, and that can be damaging to them. So you've got to manage their heat generation, their heat buildup. It's just a lot of, it's more simulation, but it's simulation that actually feels like it's adding interesting play to the game. I recently had, just the other night, I was playing and was just doing a regular ship bounty. Took down one of the ships that I was fighting, but the other one shot me down and got away. And I actually was able to have the experience of, okay, well, I went down and my ship wasn't completely destroyed from going down, but my components are shot, especially my engine. But the other ship that I shot down was like a kilometer away, and I was able to hop out of my ship, go and salvage some parts from that one, and use the repair tool uses a material that's the material you use from salvaging. So I basically scraped the hull of the ship I'd shot down for raw material, used it to repair and patch up my ship, and swapped the engine in, and was able to like take back off and try to go find the guy had gotten away and I failed the mission, but I was still able to like get back up and running and then go and repair my ship properly. It's an experience that I've kind of been waiting to be able to have, and it's every bit as cool as I was hoping. Like,
so this is like a role that a player plays in a ship, not like the role a ship plays. There's not like an engineering ship.
No. This is like in sufficiently large ships, there's like an engineering console, and there's a bunch of engineer specific tools, there's like a repair tool, there's a fire extinguisher, there's the engineering console itself that you would get good at using. One of the things that they're working on is basically a magnetized engineering suit. Currently in Star Citizen, if you're like jerking the ship around, anybody who's not strapped in is going to get thrown around. But they want to put in special suits that engineers wear that don't, or at least significantly reduce the impact of it, so that they're more able to run around the ship in a firefight or otherwise difficult conditions. But yeah, the end result is just like flying a ship around is way more interesting than it was before, and there's a lot of little tuning, especially on top of all of the changes they've put in before, where you can get really granular about how you want to tune your ship to do specific things. Like most of them you can just fly, but if you want to get really specific about it, oh hey, there's only 2 of us in this ship, but this ship has 2 turrets. We're going to redirect power away from the turret we're not using so that the other 2 turrets have more, so that all the other gunners have more power to work with. And that's just neat to see.
I think as this game grows, it's going to become more and more of a story engine of just all the random things that happened on your way to do this other thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I really want out of it. It's just like, oh, I'm going to have random space adventures, and mostly they're going to be pretty neat. But yeah, I'm pretty interested in what they do this year, because last year was them like solidly closing on a bunch of long-term promises that even I was kind of skeptical of in a handful of cases. They have whittled down their backlog of unreleased ships immensely in the last year, and like it's a very real criticism of the game that they will let you purchase concept ships that don't exist in the game until they decide to put them in, and they have a pretty robust system for giving you some kind of ship to fly while you're waiting, but it's not the same. And churning through that backlog, they've released a ton of it, and I don't think they added a single new concept ship last year, which is a first. They've said that they're not going to. It feels like I think when I've talked about Star Citizen before, I've talked about how in game development, there's this point, you go through a really long period of this game is junk, this game doesn't feel good. What are we doing here? Is this game ever going to be complete? And then you hit a threshold, and it's like hitting that, like the accelerator on an aircraft carrier that launches planes. Like you're suddenly going really fast, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. And I think that we hit that right towards the end of last year, because the like game-changing releases that also released stably were nuts. And like I have a powerful enough computer that I don't really notice I noticed a big difference, but I don't know what it's like for other specs. But anecdotally, people are saying, wow, this game runs better than I've ever seen it run. And like I get like 115 frames per second when I'm playing now, when I used to get like 40 at best, without any significant changes on my part. And that was like the December patch. So
it ran really good for me when I was playing it. I was shocked at how high a frame rate I was getting. I think I was getting like 60, 70-ish.
That's great. Like that. I mean, that has definitely not been the case for a long time.
I mean, there was all sorts of weird visual bugs still happening. Like,
Oh yeah, there's a lot of weird. Like it's still not complete, but there's so much more game there than there was before. There's honestly one of the things that I don't do a lot of is like first person shooter content, and they like quintupled the amount of it that's in the game over the past year, and I haven't seen like any of it, and I should try it. There's a whole bunch of it, but it's neat to see. It's neat to see it actually it's neat to see the development actually really accelerate. I think this is going to be an interesting year for that game.
Pokemon Legends.
Pokémon Legends Z-A is the newest Pokemon game to be released and the first one to do real-time combat. And despite the interesting tutorial, let's say, it's a little long, even for a Pokemon game, but I feel like they don't introduce the right things at the right rate, if that makes sense. There's some really cool stuff going on. Mega Evolution is a big theme of the game after the first third of it. And as soon as that gets introduced, there's just this interesting part of combat that just isn't there before. So it feels a little lacking until you hit that. And also I feel like the game doesn't really explain what plus moves are cleanly until that happens, although you have access to them way before that.
I'm glad that you also had that experience, because I was kind of playing through it. I'm like, am I crazy? What's going on? Like, does this? It feels like slower to get started.
Yeah. I started it, but I actually didn't get to the mega stuff. So, I mean, I enjoyed what I played, but it did feel kind of like there was definitely something I was missing yet.
That's fair. There is a thing you're missing. It takes way too long to
Yeah.
introduce the fun parts.
Welp.
But I am really, really enjoying the game now that I have gotten a little further bit into it. And I think it is interesting in general just to have a Pokemon game with real-time combat. Combat is cooldown based. Your Pokemon can still only know 4 moves, so pick wisely. It does introduce some additional utility for things that haven't been useful since Generation 1, like Fire Spin, which just makes a persistent area of fire on the field. And several other moves have things that do persistent effects or otherwise make them more useful than just this does some damage. And clearly Flamethrower is better than Ember because it does more damage. Flamethrower also has twice the cooldown. And takes
Well, I
a
assume
lot
you can
longer to
still do
actually
the.
execute.
I assume you can still do the thing where you can make them forget moves
You can
or replace it with
And
new
in
moves.
fact,
Okay.
they do the same thing as Scarlet and Violet, in that basically everything you could know is available to you at once you when you're trying to change moves. So you see all of your TMs and all of your level up moves are just all available. So no having to go to a move deleter to forget a move and things like that.
Cool.
So that's also a very nice touch.
I've heard it's odd being a game entirely taking place in a single city.
It kind of is. The environment is less varied than it might otherwise be because it's entirely in Lumio City. Lumio City is huge. It's way bigger than it was in X and Y, but it's still the city and the wild areas, which are areas within the city that are basically parks. There's a lot of vertical movement, though, so it doesn't feel that bad. Trying to find some specific things can be a challenge.
Do your Pokemon fly as part of that verticality?
Nope. Mostly no, anyway. You get to do parkour yourself. You do eventually get a movement upgrade of sorts, but it is fairly minor, and you're still getting around on your own 2 feet. This does open up the ability to travel to some places that were previously impossible to get to, though.
Neat.
I thought I remember the waypoints that you could teleport to being fairly generous, so it didn't feel too bad to go from one side of the city to the other.
There's that, yeah. There also is fast travel and also taxis. Yeah, I am very much enjoying this. I might be looking for someone to trade an Alakazam or a Kadabra with so I can get an Alakazam, reasons.
This is probably the next game I'm going to get back into now that I've finished some other stuff, because I want to get to the point where you get the mega stuff and it really opens up, because I did enjoy it. I just got sidetracked by other games.
Look, there are no shortage of good games last year, as we mentioned last week, and we'll continue explaining probably next week.
Yep. So
I know Ace as well have been playing quite a bit of Hytale. So like 500-foot view, there was a Minecraft series of servers called Hypixel, and they were extremely popular. And Hypixel Studios was at some point bought by Riot Games to create their own Minecraft type game. And then Riot dropped them, and the original owners bought back the studio and now have released Hytale, which was the game that they were working on with Riot. And really, kind of at a high level, Hytale feels like playing a really polished custom server in Minecraft. Because there's a lot more going on with Hytale than there was going on in Minecraft.
Yeah, coming in as someone who only played a little bit of Minecraft and never like dove very deep into modding, this just completely feels like a significantly higher fidelity Minecraft.
Yeah, like there's a lot more intentionality with the game where there are specific structures that are generated in the world. There are caves that you go spelunking down in from the surface. Like there's a lot of really nice things that are going on. Like, so it kind of solves the Minecraft Night 1 problem where you've got to build some sort of a shelter and find some coal so that you can light it up and survive the night. Whereas this game kind of starts you off in like a little ruined building that has enough stuff for you to basically survive out of there indefinitely.
Yeah, I've been playing for a few days and I have not yet moved my base of operations out of that little temple entrance yet.
Like there's a lot of differences between the biomes and what resources are available. So many cute critters in the world.
So many cute critters.
Okay, so did you ever see the crabs?
I still have not found a crab.
Have you found the lobsters?
Nope. Uncharacteristically for me, I have been spending more time down in caves than I have in the water.
You can ride horses. I don't know how to tame a horse. But if you get up to it and press the mount button before it kicks you, you can mount it for a while. But I've seen footage of people with like tamed animals. So at some point I have to figure out how to do that. Like there's a lot of interesting combat going on and like really varied enemy types. Basically anything that poisons is overpowered, and because poison will just wreck your world.
Yes, I have discovered this for sure.
And also, like, I have not figured out how spawning works because inevitably stuff spawns into caves behind me so that it's waiting on me as I'm returning to the surface.
Yeah, that has definitely been a thing, and I don't know if I actually took the time to put torches out, if it would stop that or not. But since I can carry a torch and still do all the things, I haven't been placing very many other than like a little breadcrumb trail so I know how to get back.
That's the other interesting thing is you can carry like an offhand torch so that you can have like a torch and a sword or torch and a pick. And as a result, it makes exploration way more enjoyable to where you don't feel like you're needing to just like blanket everything in torches.
And even without a torch, there's enough ambient light to sort of get by. But yeah, it's been fun. Like just the extent of the cave systems that are there in my world has meant that I've just been spending a ton of time wandering around and exploring them because most of the time it's not just little ways in a dead end, or it's like they're just very massive sprawling caves, and I am in desperate need of different resources, but also slightly terrified of monsters the next level down.
The biggest problem that I'm running into is finding enough iron. Like I kind of know where iron is at, but it's always a pain in the ass to get to, and I may or may not make it back up to the surface with the iron.
I definitely did some exploration the other day and found just a massive ton. So I've solved my iron problems and have a full set of iron armor and weapons. But I absolutely did like sort of get to the edge of where I was exploring and then just decide, I'm just going to dig my way up from here instead of trying to work my way back to an exit because I did not want to have to fight a room full of spiders.
Spiders are brutal. Snakes are brutal. Scorpions are brutal. Probably the worst thing are the wasps. Have you encountered those yet?
No, I've seen spiders and snakes, but I have not seen wasps yet.
There are these giant hives, and if you see a giant hive, you're gonna see wasps before too much longer.
That sounds like a bad time.
Oh, it's terrifying because like they're flying critters and because you can't hit them from the ground, and they also poison.
Of course they do.
Also, I keep finding bears. I'm roaming around, and next thing I know, another freaking bear is attacking me.
Yeah, I ran into one bear, and now I've just been astutely avoiding that part of the map.
Found polar bears, but I don't know if they're as brutal as normal bears. But I would assume so, given the real life counterparts are just vicious.
Yeah, just not deal with bears, thank you. I am glad that I heard your story about the troll camp because I finally encountered one of those and the pitfall traps that they had.
They're legit.
They're little carrots on a stick, and if you go to get the carrot, you'll fall through the pit trap.
Yeah, that's what got me. It was like, ooh, piece of candy. Like, there's so many more clever things going on in this game than ever was in Minecraft without a heck of a lot of modding. So yeah, like it's really freaking cool. Like it's probably up there with like Enshrouded. Not as like I still think I like Enshrouded a lot better, but it's got a lot of really interesting things going on.
Yeah, I was hoping that this would have a little bit more story baked in, but it's not quite there yet. Sounds like maybe some will be eventually, but
I think the Forgotten Temple area will probably have some.
yeah, I hope so. I mean, right now, I guess I haven't gone back there, but I'm assuming you get something maybe for finding all the creatures in the world. Every time you encounter one, you sort
I
of
have no idea what that even is unlocking because like I see them in my book, but because I have gone back and nothing seemed to change. The only thing that really is there is that barter person, so that you can trade the life essence for various stuff.
I did find a little village of those guys out in the world and almost started murdering them because it took me a minute to realize, oh wait, I recognize these guys. They're not attacking me.
I really hope that the lizard people aren't friendly because I straight up murdered one because I got the jump on them. Now you're making me second guess that.
I don't think I've encountered them. I find it entertaining that, like, for whatever reason, in this case, you have been spending way more time exploring the overworld, and I have been spending almost all of my time down in the caves.
Like, I read something. What,
I
Kodra?
was just gonna say, is this basically just Minecraft combat, or has it got more interesting things than Minecraft combat to it?
Like it's mostly Minecraft combat. Like there's some charge moves and things like that, and then there's like a special move that like charges up over time that you've got. But mostly it's just swing your sword at things. But like there's multiple kinds of weapons, so like there's swords and dual daggers have like this air jump move.
Okay.
Like there's a big hammer. I've not played with it, but I would imagine it smashes down on things. There's bows. I need to figure out how I can unlock the crossbow because it looks like it's a more competent weapon than the bow.
Oh yeah, just upgrade your blacksmith table and get a bunch of iron.
It's getting the bunch of iron that's been the challenge. Like, so I had read that some biomes have surface iron way more common, and that's part of the reason why I've been roaming around so much is looking for surface iron. And I've got some thorium, I've got some other stuff, but I still am just super low on iron.
Yeah, I haven't found anything beyond iron, so like thorium or whatever the other stuff that's available, I have not seen. But iron I found in abundance down in the caves, and I am sure if I eventually work up the nerve to go murder what I need to murder down on the lava level, I will find whatever other resources I need.
Like, one last thing that I think is kind of cool is when your weapon breaks or your pick breaks, it doesn't go away. It just becomes less effective. So you can still technically mine with it. It just goes way slower.
And you can repair it and it'll lose its overall durability, but it means if it costs 6 iron to make a pick, it only costs 1 iron and a few other bits and pieces to repair it. So that once you get basically up to iron level and beyond of all of your tools, you can repair them for cheaper than rebuilding them, which is nice. I think the other thing I'm just enjoying is like it's mostly like Minecraft, but it's different enough that you still have to learn how things work, right? I still haven't figured out some of the stuff about farming or taming animals or where the best place to go to find these different minerals and things are, and that's fun because Minecraft's been around for a little while and it's sort of a solved problem.
Right, that's the thing. It's like in Minecraft, I can start in any world and within the first hour have diamond gear. I know where to go. I know how to get it. So like it is a solved problem for me. And this is like figuring out the rules of this world. OrcaCon.
Yeah, so I got to go to OrcaCon with my kid last week, and we had a really good time. Mostly what we did was play a lot of Starfinder. We played like 3 sessions of Starfinder Society and managed to level up to level 3, both of us. And I have a second character now that's level 2, so that's really fun. So Starfinder really taking a bigger view, like it feels like every single class, like I don't have a ton to say about Witch Warper. I've never played one, I've never seen one really like explored, but Mystic, Envoy, Soldier, Operative, all just feel like such well-designed classes. And even like everything, there's a lot of interesting turns when you're playing. There's a lot of interesting things going on. There's very cool different themes to the characters you're playing. And yeah, like we had there was a really cool battle moment where we were able to like sneak into a various position and we kind of arrayed ourselves around the battlefield and like all got kind of the jump on the enemy. And it was one of those things where this can go very wrong or very right, and it went very right, and it was very cool pulling it off. My son managed to one round 2 guards by jumping down on them and swinging his glaive around, and that just felt like the type of thing you would hope a soldier would be able to pull off, and it turned out they were. But I don't know, like I'm kind like Pathfinder. I find myself straining to find characters that I still think are interesting. I struggle with Pathfinder sometimes because it does feel like the fact that they so very clearly are trying to put a ceiling on the power level, starting with like the classes that they released as the part of the core, means that like even when you're trying to do something cool, it mostly just doesn't feel as great. And like I sometimes struggle with like trying to continue to play that game and trying to find new interesting things that are also fun. But I guess maybe because Starfinder's new, everything is quite interesting, and like they didn't feel the need to like ensure that fighter is still the best at fighting, because they don't, while they are something that can carry over, they don't necessarily have to be like the premier I use a weapon in combat. Like there's now room for somebody to be better at that than a fighter.
Well, and I think once you left the traditional quote unquote D&D space, the archetypes aren't quite as baked in.
Yeah, it's very interesting because they have a different thing that they are very clearly trying to go with, which is all of the different stats are represented. Like, do you want to play somebody who's really strong? Okay, that's probably the Solarian. Do you want to play somebody who's really dexterous? That's the operative. And like the joke is they did this kind of in Pathfinder, but for the longest time there was no Constitution class. Who's the tough guy in this? And like it didn't really work because of the way the number systems work. Like you want your primary like offensive ability to be using your primary stat, and so they were just not really able to figure out how to make Constitution work for that.
I'd like to point out that Pathfinder has had a Constitution primary class for 3 years now.
Is that how old Kineticist is?
Yep.
Okay, but like Kineticist is still, I mean, it is in the. It took them a while to get to Kineticist.
Yes, it did.
And so Soldier releasing off the bat as a Constitution primary class is very cool and shows like here is the idea, and also like way better than Kineticist.
This is also one of those things where like I don't understand why they have a mental block about this. This is not hard. If you want a character to have a primary stat, make their rolls that they're going to be making most of the time key off of that primary stat.
Well, yeah, and
that's it. That's all it takes.
Kind of what they
it's
did.
Not hard. Yeah, that's what they did. When it works, that's what they did. Like this is one of those just like I don't know. It's an eye-rolling gap to me because it's such an obvious solution. It's literally what they do with everything else, and it seems ridiculous to me that they would just like that they would struggle quite so much with like how do we make Constitution work? Like
with the exception of Thaumaturge, I think most of the classes that struggle with this are the ones that were in the original PF2 core release. Those are the ones that struggle the most, like Alchemist and Wild Shape Druid and Cleric.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's
still there.
It's such an easy problem to solve. It feels like it's a mental block thing. It's like a creative mental block thing, not a like functionality thing.
They're slowly getting over it because like Investigator exists.
Yeah, and even Investigator is a little janky about it, but it at least works. It's like, look, just use your int for hit rolls. It's fine. You can write those words.
It like they did. Inventor is definitely the other one I think of when it comes to this, but yeah, mostly they figured it out. But yeah, also I think I really appreciate the Starfinder Society, like the power levels, and I don't know if they're going to get more intense, but for level 1, I feel like they have a fairly good power level in that we did have people go to dying, but it was more common to go through a module without somebody taking enough damage to go to dying, and it was almost always due to a crit roll against them. They've mostly tuned these encounters down pretty well. Although it is also interesting because watching this shows me kind of the downside of undertuning an encounter, which is players might not even get a chance to act if they're low enough in the initiative order, if you don't have enough like grit to your encounters.
I am definitely learning some things about encounter tuning in Pathfinder in general as a GM for a weekly game where the players are unevenly optimized, let's say.
Is it? What are your takeaways?
It is really, really useful, and I would say arguably essential to tune your encounters to your party, which is sort of like, I guess, the Lancer GM in me coming out. And does make me frustrated at like pre-written modules which can't do this,
Yes.
because you never know when your party is just going to inadvertently completely trivialize or completely struggle with an encounter because you lack the specific tool this encounter wanted. But if you're designing encounters for a party, maybe don't include things that require that tool that the party doesn't have, or do if you want to give them a specific challenge. But it feels like that's a relevant part of encounter design that you just can't do in a pre-written module.
Yeah. I do feel like pre-written modules have the thing going on where they kind of expect the players to be covering all bases.
Even in a party of 5, you can't do that, though.
Yeah, well, it's also like, it's not just that they want the party to cover all bases, it's that what they consider covering a base is benchmarked against the best possible role you can have. And that's not actually possible for a lot of characters.
I don't know. I'm definitely learning things, like when to use extreme encounters.
I find it interesting that we're ever using extreme encounters, because I thought those are generally, like, that's one of the interesting things. In a module, they'll never do that. Like, they top out at severe.
An extreme martial opponent is a nearly insurmountable threat. An extreme caster can be interesting.
Is that just because, like, you can bully the caster if you get close to it?
You can bully casters. They aren't going to be able to use their max level spell every round.
So they end up acting as a clock almost.
More like an initial burst for the party to handle. Whereas a out of band martial opponent will just crit someone repeatedly.
Yes.
And they'll just die. It does remind me, though, that when I was running Lancer, I did have to ignore some of the advice about what to make as far as encounters go, because the party was just too cracked.
Well, I feel like both Beacon and Lancer, it's really easy to become too cracked for the recommended encounter design. Like, we just finished up a Beacon game, and while there was definitely a moment in the final boss fight where everything could have gone completely south, it turned out that we had just one last tool to be able to solve that problem.
One of the things for me from having DM'd as long as I have is that, like, that's fine. Like, encounter, like, there's going to be a lot of points where it's like, oh, that encounter hinged on this roll, but like the only person who knows that is the DM, and like getting that razor's edge super close encounter is like that Hollywood movie finale is just so risky to try. Because if you're not fudging the dice, it probably goes super wrong for you, and like, oops, you've killed the player party. And I think it's okay. I actually really like that Lancer and similar just let you blow past the recommended encounter design, because it's a lot easier to make an encounter harder than it is to make an encounter easy, I think.
I agree with you.
I'm perennially frustrated with official Paizo modules because they're all tuned for like power players. And so if you're just like trying to have a bit of fun, it's easy to just get curb stomped. Or be like, oh, no, it's not even worth me attempting these rolls because like I only have a +5 in them, but I could have a +7, or a +9. But like, because I didn't turbo specialize in them, I'm just never going to succeed a roll at them.
That's honestly one of the things I'm digging about playing public access. And it's doing totally different things than a more traditional game like Pathfinder or D&D is doing. But it has this whole mechanic that since you're already screwing with flow of time, that if you try something and it goes horribly wrong, you're given the chance to spend a key, which is essentially a limited resource, to roll time and get a do-over and narrate how maybe it didn't work exactly like that and have a clue moment of like, but that's not exactly what happened. But it allows me to do some risky stuff without really worrying about that it's a permanent end state for me. I don't know. Void Miner.
So this is another one of these little games that I just stumbled into, but it is sort of in the vein of Nova Drift, right? Like a modern roguelite asteroids, but where Nova Drift is like very stylized. Void Miner is very, I don't know how to describe, the art style is very earnest, and it's just sort of more frantically focusing on actually shooting asteroids and getting power-ups from them. And it's just kind of incredibly zen. It has a soundtrack. I was trying to describe how I feel about it, but I think what I've settled on is it makes me feel like I'm inside of an 80s training montage in an arcade. It's very good. And honestly, like the music pushes me to keep playing. So, after each round, you have the option of either starting over or going back and, applying your whatever currency you've earned for upgrades. And sometimes, if the music is really good, I'll just keep playing instead of going back to get upgrades because I just want to keep hearing the soundtrack. And if I go back and go into the menus, it switches to a little bit more of a chill soundtrack. But it just, it's a lot of fun. I think it could be described as sort of an incremental. It's got a big skill tree that you can eventually completely fill. Um, but I also enjoy that, uh, at least opening up the skill tree for the first time, there are some surprises, like the way that the tree is laid out. Could not always predict like what new kind of skill up was going to open up after the next node. And so that was kind of fun. Just seeing like the variety of weapons and boosts that were available. Slowly working my way around to unlock and power up everything. It's pretty short, so I did finish it, but it's got an endless mode, so you can just hop in and chill and keep playing for as long as your heart desires. Um, I'd like that the main game before you get to endless mode you have both a health bar and an oxygen meter. And so the oxygen meter is basically a timer for your run that you can eventually extend in various ways. But it means, especially at the start, that is extremely bite-sized. And so on the one hand, it means you can jump in and jump out quickly. And on the other hand, because it's fun and a little addicting, it's also easy to just keep playing and playing and playing a bunch of runs consecutively. But yeah, I would say if you enjoy Nova Drift, it's worth checking out. It's definitely doesn't quite have the same level of depth, but I think it's still worth a try. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Okay, Tam, you've been diving into the world of retro handhelds. What paths have you gone down?
Too many, actually.
Actually, like the real question is which device did you end up going for?
Well, so my kid has an old, like, first gen iPad Air, which I have been diligently and constantly, like, monitoring and policing and locking down. But is like, it's nice for, like, oh, we're on a long car ride or something. She could watch, Disney movies or whatever. But it's a lot of effort to make sure that you can't take a tablet like that and make it more more specifically, no, you can only do these things on it. Because if it were just here is a tablet exclusively for watching Disney movies on, I would feel very differently. But like making sure that it's not going down YouTube or random web browsing or whatever is very hard to do. And is not really supported by like any existing tablet that isn't like explicitly a kid's tablet, which has its own slew of problems. Um, but I recently you sat down and was playing Yoshi's Island on the virtual console with her, and she was having a great time. And I was thinking, that's a thing to try later. And then the most recent iOS update was not accessible to this old iPad Air, and immediately the Disney app stopped working. So now, like, the main thing my kid would use this for just doesn't work anymore. Just like, nope, you can no longer update this iPad. It's out of update. We don't support updates for it anymore. Disney app doesn't support iOS that isn't updated or supported anymore. Therefore, you're done. Did not really want to buy a whole new iPad. I was looking into, what other options are there, and one of the ones was, maybe we do a little enrichment and some eye-hand coordination, and for the long car rides or like waiting around instead of watching a show, we can play a little game. And wound up asking, what options exist that are
Oh boy.
like my first thought was like, yeah, what options exist? And
Truly staggering number of options.
yeah, like immediately stared into the void, pulled back from that precipice, and was like, let me ask people I actually know who I know do this. And
yeah, like my initial gut thought is that you probably ended up with either an Anbernic device or a Retroid device.
Extremely funny.
So there's some amount of cheating going on here.
There's a lot of cheating going on here. Because when I asked Ash was like, I've gone through a few of these. And very kindly gifted my child an Anbernic that was basically already totally set up and just wasn't doing what he wanted it to.
If you're curious, it doesn't have the right aspect ratio to play Game Boy Advance games perfectly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I own a couple Retroids and I own a couple Anbernic devices, so I feel this. Like, of the options, those tend to be the two better camps to be in. Like, there are some good Powkitty devices, but they're real hit and miss.
There are so many options nowadays.
It's wild. It's a totally wild thing. And
honestly, Steam Deck is a really great retro device too.
Yeah.
That has the same problem as the iPad, however.
Yeah.
Like the Steam Deck has the same problem as the iPad, and also the Steam Deck is just physically too large for her.
Right. Yeah.
Because the other thing that would be a very reasonable choice is a Switch, because you can actually lock down a Switch pretty well, but the Switch is also like a little too big for her to use by herself. It's like a little bit too big and a little bit too complicated for her to use by herself. And so I immediately discovered that Ash and I have totally different taste in retro games, which amused me. But like in the car,
I got it for it to be a Game Boy machine mostly.
Well, you had Zelda Minish Cap on there.
Did have Minish Cap on there,
and I put Minish Cap in front of my kid, and she was enthralled for the entire car ride home.
It's an amazing game.
Well, and like, for clarity, my kid is 3. Like, complex games are not really what we're after here. Something that can accept an input sometimes and still function is great. Like, I'm not actually sure that she left Link's house in that entire car ride home, but she was having a blast, just walking around. She found she could go up and down the stairs and did that like 40 times. And I put a bunch of games on it, just like it's already set up. So put a bunch of things. Tetris is a big hit. You know, she's like, Daddy, I'm going to make the tower as tall as I can. Okay, yes. You know, go for it. We'll get to that at a future date. It's not important. But where that ended up was me going like, wow, it's actually really, because while I was setting up, I was testing it out. I was like, wow, it's actually a really convenient little thing. You know, I kind of want one of these. And while I was going through like, what do we want to be discussing with my partner? Like, what do we want to put on here? We were both reminiscing about the retro games that we both had. And so, long story short, I have an Ambernick SP 35XX SP, whatever, the one that's a
I
Game
believe
Boy.
that's the one that I actually have and currently use.
The one that's a Game Boy SP.
They make two that are in that format, but yeah.
And my partner has a Retroid Pocket Classic, which admittedly is me specifically precision targeting nostalgia because I got the original Game Boy colored one. And you know, on the one hand, it's been fascinating going through retro games and like thinking about what is accessible and what is good for learning. My kid demanded that my partner try Mario RPG on the new Retroid Pocket Classic, and like it was this eye opener for my partner who was like, "Oh, I had seen games like this, but I thought they were all too complicated, but this one's just telling me how to play it." And I was like, "Yeah, if you play Mario RPG, and Mario RPG is a really accessible game. If you play Mario RPG, you can play every Final Fantasy game. You can play every JRPG. There's an entire like horizon of games that you can pick up because it's going to teach you all the skills you need." You know, and having a similar experience with my kid where it's like, oh, I press these buttons and things happen. But yeah, I've been working my way up from, okay, putting games on an already set up Anbernic is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Figuring out how to make kid mode work on the OS is honestly the, what is it, 351 elec?
Ember Elec, yeah, or whatever
Yeah.
it's currently.
Yeah, it's Ember Elec, and it's now Ember Elec, but it has an incredible kid mode on it. Just like, oh, you can do nothing except play specifically highlighted games. I love it. It's so good. Setting up the Retroid Pocket Classic had a few false starts as I learned the difference between headered and unheadered NES games. Good God.
I haven't dug into that in a long time.
But I'm using the default. I'm using all of the defaults on that one because I don't need to get super complicated with it. And then when the SP comes, I'm going to put a custom OS on it and see how much I hate myself doing so.
It's very easy compared to what it used to be.
I believe that. I believe that is a completely true statement.
Yep. Honestly, it is actually very easy. You put some files on an SD card, you're good to go.
I did at our friend Void's recommendation, I did almost pull the trigger on an AIM Thor, and I opted to hold off on that.
And the AIM devices are in another tier compared to the Anbernic ones.
Yeah, like the Anbernic SP was like, the one that I got was like $100, and I got a fancy one. Like you can get these get really cheap. I got a relatively fancy one, and it was like $100. The like Anthor, the like fancy Anthor, that's the one I would get, is like $400.
Yes.
It's like the price of a game console. And like, I see what you're getting out of it. You're getting something that is comparable to a Steam Deck, but pointed in a different direction.
Yeah, they put serious hardware in these things.
Yeah, like if I wanted to play, I mean, it's one of those things where I think I've talked about how I basically played World of Warcraft through the entire PS2 era. I don't think the Anbernic SP would play PS2 games. Maybe I'm wrong.
You might be surprised.
I might be surprised. I don't know. I don't know that I would want to physically
It'll play Dreamcast for
fair.
certain.
Like, one of the things that I am remembering is that my hands were a lot smaller when I used a Game Boy SP all the time. And so it's a little bit less comfortable to play, especially if I need to use the thumbsticks. It's just not like a physically comfortable thing. But like, it would probably be more comfortable on the Anthor, which is a bigger device. And like, yeah, there's a bunch of PS2 games that I just never played. There's a bunch of Dreamcast games I've never played. I always wanted a Sega Saturn. I never got a Sega Saturn, but there's some stuff I would try on there.
That one's a little iffy.
Yeah.
A lot of the best stuff from the Sega Saturns come to other platforms, like Guardian Heroes or...
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's going to cost me anything to try it once it's available.
You have the truly weird version of Symphony of the Night.
Yeah. And then also it's just like, oh, there's some PSP stuff that never escaped the console. There's just a bunch of stuff that just never escaped the console that it was on. And, you know, I'm a weirdo that didn't actually really like the Nintendo DS form factor very much. And so there's a bunch of DS games that are like very good that I've just never played because it was an awkward physical device for me to try to play.
I did like the DS quite a bit. And unfortunately, until the Anthor came around, the best thing to play DS games on was a DS.
Yeah, well, and that's why, like, one of the things I was reading about the Anthor was a bunch of people who were like, I always wanted to play DS games. The way I held it was just particularly uncomfortable or didn't work very well because of the way the like clamshell hinge worked. It's the exact same problem that I had with it. And they're like, the Anthor doesn't have it. I can play everything on the Anthor. And I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I'm convinced. But I want to, I want to play with, let me see if I actually have space in my life for a little clamshell retro handheld.
Well, the nice thing about these devices is honestly, most of them are cheap enough that you can buy them to play a dedicated form factor.
Yeah. Yeah, like it is less expensive to pick up. It would be less expensive for me to pick up an Anbernic SP to just play GBA SP games on than it would have to have buyed a Game Boy SP and games for it when it was current.
This is correct.
Even if you extend when it was current to when you could get them for cheap at GameStop, which I did because I played Crystal Chronicles and did in fact buy like 3 more of those things to play Crystal Chronicles on. But yeah, like that's and man, there are so many interesting old games on there that are like simple and building blocks and interesting and I don't have to worry about, especially in the context of my kid. You know, my kid has a friend who's got basically an iPhone and is always on, Apple Arcade in the App Store and is like, I want to play this game. It's like, no, you can't play that game. That game is like loaded with ads. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Or like, this has a zillion microtransaction payments. Like, no. Like, it doesn't have any microtransaction payments and hates you just as much? The Lion King on SNES.
Nobody should know. Why? Why would you do that to someone?
I beat that game last night.
Why you do that to yourself?
I got my revenge on that title.
Now you should play the Genesis version, which is slightly different.
I had never gotten past the second level.
Stupid swinging stage?
Never gotten past the second level. I beat that stupid game, and I'm never turning it on again. My inner child is satisfied. It has no more power over me. I also booted up Lagoon, the game that turned me into a game designer.
Because I remember fondly, but I don't think it's a good game.
Lagoon is terrible. I hate that game. I hated that game as a kid because it doesn't tell you how to play it in any way at all. So you just die. I've learned a bunch of stuff about that game because I'm, 38 years better at video games or whatever. It's probably overestimating that number a bit. But I played Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and then immediately played Lagoon after that as a kid. And was like...
Because they look like similar games.
Yeah, they look like similar games. And I was like, why is one of these... It was that thing where I was probably 7 or 8, and I was like, why is one of these so good and one of these so bad? I don't get it. And was like, oh no, people make these. And people are different. And some people are better at things than other people. But if people are making them, then I could make them.
I did discover recently that the game that I thought was absolutely terrible when I was growing up is in fact so bad that a lot of people have issues playing it now.
Oh no.
I was given Perfect Weapon for the PS1 when I got my PS1.
Oh no. That game is just bad.
It's awful.
There's a really important thing that is not explained. I cannot find a game that explains this as a tutorial anywhere. There is a concept deeply internalized in all of us at this point. Go fight monsters, gain XP, level up, get more powerful from leveling up. That chain is not explained anywhere.
I feel like a lot of RPGs moderately tutorialize you on this by forcing you into some starting encounters.
You know what game hilariously, explicitly in text tutorializes this? Undertale.
Undertale?
Yeah, Undertale does this 20 years late. But like, the reason that I thought Lagoon was terrible was because I would walk into an enemy and it would hurt me. And so I didn't walk towards enemies because they hurt me and I didn't have very much health. It also doesn't explain that you regenerate health if you stand still. So I would walk into the very first like tutorial dungeon, wouldn't fight anything because it would hurt me and I knew I had more dungeon to do, not realizing that if I fought them and then just stood there for a bit, I would slowly get more powerful and get my health back, which is like a painfully obvious thing, but isn't. I actually looked up the instruction manual, isn't explained in the instruction manual.
Oh, is Lagoon based extremely heavily on ease?
Yeah, kind of.
Probably. No,
it's very similar. It's like a worse version of Ease.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just one of those things. I remember having the same thing with Final Fantasy VII. By the time I got to Final Fantasy VII, like I played all the way through Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger forces you into enough encounters that you never notice it. It's very good about that. Probably why I was able to beat that game as a kid.
Forces is a strong statement there.
There's a bunch of unavoidable encounters, and if you do only the unavoidable encounters, you're broadly powerful enough to beat the game.
Oh, what I'm saying is those encounters are avoidable if you step very carefully.
Well, okay, sure. Yes. I sure didn't it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. But you sure can just run away from fights in FF7.
Yep.
And I was like, why would I fight things?
I can just run away.
Just run away. And so I got to Sephiroth at level like 31.
It is very amusing because like all of these games are borrowing from Dungeons and Dragons, the game that's supposed to tutorialize you on this.
Yeah. But it's this sort of interesting thing that's like, how do games teach you to play them? Mostly badly. Like mostly phenomenally badly. And it's only in the last like 10, 15 years maybe that we've actually started trying to teach people effectively. Like sometimes there's like an attempt to explain like the specific mechanics of the game, but there's a lot of foundational stuff that just is never addressed.
I think a lot of games do a very good job of, like, even earlier than that, I think a lot of games do an excellent job of explaining themselves, mostly without using words. Like, I mean, Egoraptor's famous example is Mega Man X teaches you how to play it way better than many other Mega Man games do.
It's true. And like Mega Man X does an incredible job of explaining how it works without words. Mario does. Like
the first Goomba is there for a reason.
Yeah, it goes even before the first Goomba. They love to show you some just like, hey, this is what this game looks like. Reach. Yeah, this is what this game. What is it called? The demo that plays when you're in the title screen. Even.
That too.
We'll just show you like, hey, this is what this game looks like in action.
The original Mario Brothers didn't have that, but Mario 3 and Mario World sure did.
Yeah.
See, that's a thing that like games don't have as much anymore. Goes back to the arcade. The arcade always had an attract screen that more or less showed you how to play the game.
Yeah, so you could see how to play it before you decided to put recorders in it.
Mm-hmm. And if somebody else was playing it, you could watch them.
You're like, as brutal as Magician Lord is at times, the attract screen for Magician Lord basically shows you how to get through the entire first level.
But yeah, I I think that broadly most of there's like a few good tutorial standouts, but then tons and tons of other games that are basically just drafting off of those few games. So like if you didn't play the right game first, you just lost.
Well, Lagoon was easier for me to adapt to. I played it after Link to the Past, but I had already also played Ys, so I had a point of reference at that point. So, Kodra, tell me about your journeys in Path of Exile 2.
So I am still playing. I managed to get through the campaign, through the interlude, and I am still having fun with this game. I'm willing to say this game is better. I'm not yet willing to say I think this is a good game. It's because I did have to get hard carried out of Act 1. Like, I had to be like, hey, Belle, please log on so that I can actually beat the boss of Act 1. A boss that, like, I did do 4 attempts on and basically could not get past because I would, like, the build I started with was not good. It was too melee oriented, and I was playing a mercenary. Like I was trying to play my own unique little thing. And now the good news is my only unique little thing works and is really fun. But it did require me to grind my way across glass to get out of Act 1 and 2. That said, what do I think is better? I think I really have gotten a flow state with the crafting. I think I think loot is so much better in PoE 2 than PoE 1. And the joke of what do you care about? I don't know if I am like finding it, maybe I just haven't really like understood why my defenses don't matter. But I have a bunch of armor and a bunch of things that say armor applies to elemental damage. And I've got a whole bunch of wolves who are also soaking damage from me thanks to specific supports. And I feel very tanky, actually.
Yeah. Elemental damage taken as armor is actually a really good defensive layer, especially for small hits. And if you throw in the other direction, it's also really good.
If you do what in the other direction?
Like you put on a cloak of flames and can convert physical damage to elemental.
Sure. Yeah, but I'm trying to like mostly focus on building out armor. So that's working out well. Like I have a ton of armor. I think I have like, for the level I'm at, I have like 58% damage reduction. And then I have, like 70% of that applies to elemental. And then I have right now 16 wolves following me around. And I just pounce, this is also doing a lot of the things that I've always really wanted. Like when I pounce, I put a mark on an enemy. That mark causes that enemy to take more damage based on the number of allies I have around it. Up to like 4% per ally, up to 60% more damage that enemy takes. I also have augmented this mark so that it also causes enemies to physical damage to break armor and regenerate my mana. And as a result, I don't worry about mana, and bosses melt. And it feels cool because why the bosses are melting is because I am supporting 16 wolves who I am also doing shouts for that also buff them. And so I've got this army of wolves that I am supporting, but also leading the charge with. And this is kind of like the player fantasy I always want. Not necessarily as a werewolf supporting wolves, but more like I want to be a commander supporting my minion army. Rather than the classic thing you see in an ARPG, which is a necromancer raising an army and it does all of the work while you stand behind it. But this game still has the most brutal difficulty initial difficulty is terrible, and then your character hits the power curve, like your power spikes past the game's difficulty, and it's kind of smooth sailing for a while.
Yeah, and then at some point during maps, you're probably going to have to work heavily on your gear. But once you've done that, you hit another power break and can kind of smooth sail from that point on.
So what power spike, what gear spike am I going to run into?
It was around when I transitioned to red maps that I really needed to adjust some of my gear and
for more defense.
A little of both.
Okay.
But it's going to be more defense oriented than, like, really I was able to drop some damage without any issue to pick up some defense, because like I could just melt things DPS wise.
Yeah, this is interesting because I am kind of in the worst of both worlds if you think about this from like the way my damage scales, or possibly the best of both worlds. My damage really scales great off of having a high physical hit talisman, because all of my minions get that. And my damage also scales off of having as many levels stacked onto both minion and melee skills. Because it turns out Pounce is both a minion and melee tagged skill, which does mean that it's not impossible to get it up into get it to max level of 40.
That's a silly number.
It sure is.
Is your Pounce basically enough to clear normal trash mobs?
Kind of. Although, my primary attack is Lunar Assault, which is weird name. Basically, it's the big slash that converts most of your physical damage to cold and has a massive freeze multiplier. So this is the other big defensive layer I have, is I freeze most things around me. And by the way, you absolutely I freeze bosses shockingly quick right now. And then I also have the one of the new lineage gems that gives everyone around me massive buffs if I freeze something with this attack.
Yeah, I'm even running that one, even though I don't do as much cold damage as you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing a little bit of cold damage converted.
And so it's just oh yeah, that's just a really good skill if I ever freeze someone.
Yep, it is a no-brainer to run that thing.
And then the thing I just got is, so I finally got I did my third ascendancy, which means now I have the Unleash Hell back. You have a crossbow minion that follows you off screen that does a big area's worth of damage that scales off of minion stuff. But I also put Kurgel's Leash on that because this is a reservation-free thing that gives me Unholy Might whenever I use a command skill, and the only thing it does is command skill. So I've got a bunch of defense, I've got a bunch of offense. This is a weird build, but it's fun. I am very curious. I have posted a question into the thread where they're talking about wolves. It does seem like most people online doing a build like this have their gyms feel like they have twice as much spirit, reservation, as they should have spirit available to them, which does tell me that there's got to be some weapon swap shenanigans going on, I think. And I'm trying to better understand what's going on there. And I also know that there's some this game didn't need to be more complicated. I don't actually think I like the fact that you can weapon swap into a different tree.
Right.
Because that does feel like a level of power that requires you to more further master this already complicated system.
It's really a choice. You get fewer total points in order to do a weapon swap.
Wait, you get fewer total points? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So, like, okay, every time you pick up one of these weapons swap books, you're getting 2 points, where you can either spend that in 2 different trees or put 2 points in your main tree. So when you're doing weapon swaps, you're losing some points.
Oh.
Yeah, like you can either spend that to further your own tree, or you can spend those points as weapon swap points.
Really?
Yeah, so it's an opportunity cost.
I didn't realize that. So you don't get more points total. You actually have less points just split across. Why would you ever weapon swap then?
To access specialized talents, you only use with like one ability.
Which I do get. But like when I'm looking at these trees, they're mostly the same with just like some offshoots for the weapon swap stuff. Anyways, that's weird. That's weird to me.
I mean, on some level, the tree itself isn't all that powerful, so I can see maybe it being worth it, because like a lot of times people just make a run for the next gym socket once they get up in level.
I don't know. I feel like there's quite a bit of power still for me. Like this build feels like it's doing a lot with its tree.
The druid starting area is really, really good.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing is mostly I'm doing a run to get to the druid area while also having just, a ton of support stuff. But I do have the Lord of the Wilds, which does feel extremely important for this build.
Yeah, I haven't picked that up yet. I've been trying to find a scepter that was a good scepter.
Well, why would you pick it up unless you were doing this build? Like, do you have a ton of minions?
No, I don't currently.
Yeah, like the scepter makes sense if you have a bunch of minions, because all it does is a whole bunch of things that like buff allies in your presence. But then having 50% less spirit, that's a whole lot less spirit.
It is. Yeah, so you really have to find a scepter with a lot of spirit on it.
Well, the default has 100.
Yeah,
So
I've got a scepter that's got like 150 on it, I think.
Yeah, so that would get you up to like 125 total spirit. But then your non-minion skills also have much less reservation. 50% less reservation efficiency, which does work even if you don't have any reservation efficiency.
Is it 50% increased reservation efficiency?
It is 50% less reservation efficiency.
That doesn't make any sense.
I also agree it doesn't make any sense based on how I understand the things in this game to work, but it did double the cost of my buffs.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have less spirit and everything costs more.
Yes. It's only good, like it balances out if all you're doing is summoning. But you know what it doesn't impact actually? It doesn't impact the spirit cost of support gems, which is mostly what you care about, because you're getting a free buff from your scepter. Every scepter has a 0 cost buff that can be very good. One of them is discipline. That's a very good buff. Everyone around you now has energy shield. And then you can also layer on top of that, like all of the support gems, like clarity or accuracy. I do think it's very interesting seeing people's opinions on Wolf and like which class they want. Thematically, I'm very happy that the class called Tactician does have a pretty reasonable build. That's the one I'm going with. I think I kind of want to try Oracle next league, as long as this doesn't get nerfed into the ground, which it doesn't seem like it's a problem right now. Like very few people are actually running this, it seems.
Congratulations on finding the build that's going to get under the radar.
I didn't say that.
Oh.
I'm just like...
From what I can tell, based on their commentary, it seems like they're very happy with the state of Druid.
That's good. I think Druid and Primal Skills makes way more sense as a connected kit than other stuff they've done. And they have
that was kind of my thing this league, is seeing how Primal skills work. I finally understand what they were going for with the other classes, but have really failed to land.
Yep.
Because there's an interconnectedness of these abilities that feel really good, and I'm hitting like 5 abilities a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it all feels good to use them together.
Yeah, like I am hitting, let's see, I hit pretty reliably 8 different abilities. 7 different abilities if I don't include my dodge. But I use Pounce. I have 2 primary attacks, actually. I have the freezing one, the Lunar Assault. I also have the just baseline Shred, which is more damage but doesn't have the freeze component, but does like, if something's frozen, shredding them is actually better. So you kind of want to balance between trying to use your big swipes that do a big area and then freeze things, and then shredding into them to like break off bits of ice that then explode. Then you also have the Howl, which grants everyone around me more cold damage. My Pounce, there is, so one of the ways that I summon minions is when I consume the mark from Pounce, that will summon a minion. There is, which would be a problem for bosses, because bosses can kill minions, and you normally consume a mark by killing an enemy. But there is a cross slash attack, which jumps back and does a big X on the ground. And if that hits somebody with a mark, it'll consume the mark, and so you can summon a wolf again. And so even for like difficult boss fights with lots of area, I can reliably keep up my minion army. And then I also have just like a very fast like ice bolts fall from the sky, and the crossbows that fall from the sky. So it's a pretty like good number of abilities I'm constantly pressing.
But it feels like each and every one of those has a reason to push it.
Oh yeah, I know why to push it. And then like I also have a bunch of interesting tactics. Like one of the challenges is that I am playing with melee minions who like to get stopped at doors. This is a problem. The solution to this problem is to run far enough into the room that your minions like leash to you. Basically, they will disappear and reappear next to you.
So when you pounce, do they not pounce with you?
Some, not always.
Okay.
It does not seem reliable.
I know I was getting stuck on doors with pounce, and that was awkward. But I was also in bear form, and I think that was a problem with bear form being larger than the normal unit size.
Yeah, I'll also say I didn't play in Abyss, but like Desecration is fun to play with and an interesting thing to do as like a way to get stats. I don't even know that I had like access to the higher level blue and like the higher level crafting mats were those in launch?
No, those went in, I think last league maybe.
Boy, there's like, yeah, so that was also good because so one of the things is like you would have these things that would just add a random modifier, but like they truly a random modifier. No way to know whether it's going to be good or bad. And so there was no way to like hopefully try and improve your ability to get a good item. So what we have now is we have higher level crafting mats, which put level like they put tier floors on the affixes that can roll. And so especially for if you're crafting from like a white base, which you might really want to do, you might really want to have a white base that you know you want to craft onto. You just have the blue orbs that you can guarantee a level 75 or better or level 70 or better affix on, and just keep doing that until you get like a magic item that has the perfect affixes. And then the other cool thing, I don't remember if those were the way greater essences work, wherein like PoE greater essences are basically a chaos orb where you guarantee a single affix. In this game, they are a regal orb that guarantees the affix you add, so it's a lot more control. And so like
Those were in at launch.
What?
Yep.
Those were in at launch?
Yep.
So you have a lot more control to get an item that has 3 really good affixes on it. Then you can desecrate it once to get like your pick of 3 affixes. Can you desecrate an item more than once?
I think there's a way to do it. Like, I swear I've seen somebody doing it, but I've not figured it out myself.
Okay.
It may be an omen, because omens also affect your crafting options.
Yes.
I
find already the state of PoE 2's item crafting to be more intuitive than PoE 1's, which is not a high bar. I need to stress.
And crafting in PoE 2 really relies on picking up a lot of bases, because you may not land what you want, but if you do it often enough, you probably will.
But the bases also do seem to matter a lot more, and so I do like look for them. And then I also like when I am, that's the other thing, is like you might be looking to buy off of the trading market a magic item that has the perfect bases.
Anyway.
Yeah, we've gone over quite a bit.
I am having fun with this game. Act 1 and 2 suck.
Yeah, well, that is probably a show, and next week we will return with our Games of the Year Part 2. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.